Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Chapter 2 of the Karate Kid Part 3 novelization. Took me a minute to work through all the numbers there in my head between Part 2, third movie. Anyways, you're not going to be getting professional grade audiobook narration as part of this. No, sir. This is straight off the dome. Andy McGaffigan, Karate Kid Cobra Kai discussion. So where we left off last time, Mr. Miyagi is unemployed. Daniel LaRusso is homeless, and his mother has abandoned him. Things aren't looking too good for our hero, but he's optimistic. He's thinking he's got some idea with his college money and how he can flush that down the toilet. Uh, Making bad choices right out of the gate as an 18-year-old. Anyways, let's dig right into Chapter 2 and see if we can power through some of this exposition and get to the real star of the show, Mr. Terry Silver. Okay, here we go. Daniel had a surprise gift for Mr. Miyagi. It was the most grown-up thing Daniel had ever done. He was excited. He hoped his friend would be too. That's so heartwarming and earnest. I just love it. Mr. Miyagi, I'm home, Daniel called from the doorway. He could smell something good cooking from the kitchen. He went in there. How was the first day of college, Mr. Miyagi said. I didn't go to college, Daniel said. Mr. Miyagi looked at him coldly. What? He asked. Now was time for the surprise. Daniel handed Mr. Miyagi his gift. It was enclosed in a black lacquer box and looked very formal. May all your dreams come true, Daniel said. Oh boy. What's this? Mr. Miyagi asked, taking the box. Only one way to find out. Mr. Miyagi opened the box and took out the paper that was inside. A lease? With my name on it? What did I rent? Did Mr. Miyagi enter a fugue state and enter a rental agreement? No, that didn't happen. It's your new bonsai store, Daniel said. Then he added, Congratulations! And we even have enough money left over to fix up the place. Daniel could tell that Mr. Miyagi was very pleased, but he was also concerned. Hey, real talk though, if I'm Mr. Miyagi and someone enters a legal contract without my knowledge or consent, I'm going to be a little bit upset. So, yeah. Anyways. You used college money for this, Daniel, son? I can't have you do that. Daniel was going to have to be very persuasive. Look, he said, I'm going to take a year off, work in the shop, and help you make a success of it. See, I've been going to school nonstop since I was 5. I could use a break. Mr. Miyagi looked dubious. Yeah, because that's like the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my entire life. Come on, let me show you the place, Daniel said. Mr. Miyagi turned off the stove and followed Daniel to his car. They drove to the downtown area of the town where they lived, Reseda. Oh, beautiful Reseda in the San Fernando Valley. Daniel turned off the main street. He certainly hadn't had enough money to rent one of those shops. He made 2 more turns and then crossed the railroad tracks. Oh boy, there was the shop. The landlord said this neighborhood is up and coming, Daniel told Mr. Miyagi as they walked to the door. Look, there's a pottery shop across the street. Maybe we can get some special planters made up for the trees. It's going to be great. Wait until you see inside. Mr. Miyagi was quiet. Daniel could tell he was thinking. Yeah, where he's going to hide your body, Daniel. Jeez. Daniel unlocked the door. The inside was a total mess. The shop had been a fruit packing plant. The floor was littered with parts of wooden crates. See all the wood? We can use it for our shelves and cabinets. Daniel pointed to a big crate. And this can be a counter. Over there you can have our bonsai hospital. You know, in case any of the little trees get sick. I have a name for the shop too. We can call it Mr. Miyagi's Little Trees. Like it? Oh, Daniel. Why did Mr. Miyagi, why did you agree to teach this young man anything? Mr. Miyagi walked all around the shop, studying it. Then after a few minutes he pulled the lease out of his pocket and studied that too. Daniel was getting nervous about the long silence. Did I forget something, he asked. Yes, you forgot to put your name on the lease next to mine, partner. That's right, Daniel, you jerk. We're going to share this liability that you've thrust upon me. Daniel could hardly believe it. Not only did Mr. Miyagi agree to opening the shop and letting Daniel wait to start school, but he even wanted to be partners. If everything was changing all at once, At least it was changing for the better. Daniel LaRusso, small business owner. What an inspiration. I love that. All right, what the heck? Why don't we dive straight into Chapter 3 and see how things shape up with these two knuckleheads. All right, Chapter 3. Not only did Daniel and Mr. Miyagi have to do a lot of work to fix up the shop, they also needed to collect some new trees to make into bonsai. They took a camping trip to a nearby forest to see if they could find any likely candidates. Okay, I'm going to pause right here. Anyone from Southern California, if you could help me out, are you aware of any forests that are adjacent to Reseda, California, where you could procure a bonsai tree? Because if so, I would like to know, because as I've made clear in my previous video, I have some time on my hands, and if there's bonsai just out there for the plucking, I would like to do that, because who knows, that might be my next business venture. Andy McGaffigan's little trees that I set up with the help of my homeless 18-year-old friend. All right. This is a good one, Mr. Miyagi said. This'll make a special bonsai. Daniel looked at the scrawny little sapling. You see a bonsai here, he asked. Yes, look inside, Mr. Miyagi answered. Then very carefully he dug out around the sapling, taking all of its roots. He packed the root ball in a plastic bag and gave the tree to Daniel to carry. I don't get it, Daniel said. I have a feeling we're going to be hearing that phrase from Daniel a lot in this book. Look inside you, Mr. Miyagi explained. The same place your karate comes from. But my karate comes from you, Daniel said. Only the root of your karate comes from me. Like true bonsai, you choose your own way to grow. Because the root is strong, you choose your own way to do karate for the same reason. But I do it your way. Oh, Daniel, this is turning into a horrible Abbott and Costello routine centered around karate. And one day you will do it your own way, Mr. Miyagi said. Daniel thought about what his teacher, or sensei as the word in Japanese, had said. He thought it meant that Mr. Miyagi was teaching him only the roots of karate, and that his karate would grow from those roots in a way that he would decide. It sounded very complicated, especially since everything he knew about karate, every move, every technique, had come straight from Mr. Miyagi. Those weren't roots, that was the whole tree. They walked through the woods. Mr. Miyagi gave Daniel more of an explanation. True karate, like true bonsai, he said. If the root is strong, the tree is free to choose its own best way to grow. Same with karate. Mr. Miyagi give you a strong root. You are free to choose your own way to grow. But bonsai aren't free to choose. We tell them how to grow with our own clippers. Our bonsai are not true bonsai. Oh gosh. Mr. Miyagi, haven't you heard of the no true Scotsman fallacy? I'm not going to get into that here, but it's a logical fallacy, and I encourage you all to look it up. Mr. Miyagi is not doing a good argument here. Anyways, our bonsai are not true bonsai. True bonsai grow in the wild. Only nature tells them how to grow. True bonsai, natural bonsai, are very rare. Daniel had never heard such a thing. You ever see any? In Okinawa, Mr. Miyagi said. That was where Mr. Miyagi had been born. Brought to America with me. One natural bonsai from the cliff on the sea, north side of Okinawa. It reminds me of home. Where's the bonsai now? There, Mr. Miyagi said, pointing through the woods. In the Devil's Cauldron. Woo-hoo-hoo! In a lovely, safe place. Now, Mr. Miyagi, the Devil's Cauldron does not sound like a lovely, safe place. That sounds like the horrible sex move or something. No, that was terrible. I'm sorry I said that. I didn't mean to put that thought in your head. Anyways, the Devil's Cauldron was a remote part of the Pacific coast. Just a drive away from Reseda. It was a tall cliff going down to the ocean shaped around a cove. The whole thing was shaped like a deep teacup or a cauldron, hence the name Devil's Cauldron. Why'd you put it there? Daniel asked. When I went to fight in World War II, no one was there to take care of the tree if something happened to me. I figured it was best to put the tree where the tree could take care of itself, back in nature. There are a lot of places in nature easier to get to, Daniel said. Yeah, Daniel, but it's a special tree. Daniel, son, do you know how much collectors pay for the original bonsai? Thousands of dollars. It's better the tree lives where no one can see it. But you can't see it either, Daniel reminded him. Then Mr. Miyagi told Daniel he could see it in his mind and in his heart, and that was enough for him. Daniel shook his head. He couldn't imagine putting something precious on a cliff. He also couldn't imagine putting something beautiful out of sight. What could have made Mr. Miyagi think the tree was safer there than with an owner to take care of it? Daniel, for all of his idiocy, has a point. Mr. Miyagi had a way of looking at things that didn't make sense to Daniel, but he usually found it made sense to Mr. Miyagi, and that was good enough for Daniel. And that sentence was confusing to me. So, I don't know. For me, the takeaway of this chapter is both Daniel and Mr. Miyagi. They're both having problems making concise, logical arguments for anything, whether it comes to karate or bonsai or opening business. But it seems like if they're up against an opponent as formidable as Terry Silver, they're in a lot of trouble. So I'm hoping that we get to hear from Terry soon and that this exposition comes to a close very, very shortly. So with that, I bid you all good evening, and we'll talk to you soon when we go into Chapter 4.